located in that blue part of the map in southwestern North Carolina. And we're a regional food system. We want to improve the regional food systems through education, entrepreneurship, and infrastructure. And how do we want to do that? We want to do that by increasing farm and food business income. It's pretty straightforward. And so Lisa and Tara and I are working together on this grower buyer education and for tonight, and a grower buyer event on February 28th that we'll talk to you more about. So thank you again, Lisa, for hosting and helping to organize. I really appreciate it. So here are our partners at the Clay County Center and Tri-County Community College. So why are we here? You know, why are we talking about these things? Well, of course, this project goal is to increase food and farm business income. But the reason why we came to this part of the state is because the two fastest growing industries are arts, entertainment, recreation, accommodation, and food service. And so much of this part of the state, some people could have said the economy was depressed. Lots of manufacturing jobs have left, but we know people come here to see our beauty. And while they're here, we want them to appreciate the food that our regional farmers are growing and the products that we're brewing and the products that we are developing, and restaurants have a role in that. So one of the resources I use a lot is the Food Marketing Institute, and every year they publish the Voice of Food Retail to let us know, what are the trends. And most recently, of course, with folks with COVID on the mind, folks are focusing on health, transparency and sustainability, social consciousness, trust, and the influence of peers. So what do these trends have to do with restaurants? Why would we care about these? Well, people are as they're going back into restaurant life or even doing takeout from restaurants, maybe they're thinking about, I need to maybe have more of a plant-based diet. Maybe I need to know where my food is coming from. When the grocery shelves were getting empty the past couple of years, folks who maybe knew that their neighbors grew something, but didn't buy from them, started reaching out. And the farmers that we work with that had like CSA's food subscription services, or would process a beef or two a year, their neighbors were moving, saying, can you help us out? I'm going to go buy a freezer. There was a run on freezers. Folks were really stocking up. So that's kind of part that I think that has been part of developing the social consciousness. Where is my food coming from? And how can I, in times of crisis, support my local community in a sustainable way with my dollar? So these things, maybe these trends will continue, as we come out of we have a post-COVID culture. And again, trust, folks want to know, what's happening in this restaurant where I'm buying my food? How is this grocery store supporting our local economy? So we do believe that that food retail, these trends are an indicator of how farmers and restaurants should be working together in the future and now. So when Tara and I were putting together this presentation, we thought that we would share this cool video that we developed through our project. Marcelo Capolazzi, the communications coordinator for the Center for Environmental Farming Systems, came out and made this beautiful video for us demonstrating the linkage between restaurants and food businesses during COVID. And the Fork to Farmer series you can find on YouTube. They're for all over the state. These are produced by the Tourism and Parks Department at NC State. But of course, we asked them to work with us to make a couple to highlight our region. So I'm going to start it. And unfortunately, YouTube always puts a little commercial in the beginning. So I'll try to get past the quickly.
Gotta make them.
Bear with me. Okay.
Laura, has it started? We're not.
Oh,
hearing anything.
you know what? Shoot. Hold on a second. I forgot. Lauren showed me a trick about this. You have to, because I can see it, but apparently you couldn't see it, huh?
Mm-mm.
Okay, advanced sharing options. Okay, hold on.
This is always the trickiest part of Zoom.
I know, that's what I said. I tested it. Okay, hold on a second. It was embedded. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so here's the PowerPoint. And your screen sharing, there's something, gosh, she told me about that. Oh, here it is. Is it stop video?
Well, we've moved on to the next slide now, is what I'm seeing.
Oh, gosh. Well, what I might do is pause share. How did she tell me to do that? It was some really unique thing. Oh, share sound. Optimize for video clip. Okay, let me just try one more time and see if it's back there.
Sounds like you're heading in the right direction.
Maybe. It's like you said, no matter how many times you practice. Okay, and oh, I don't know. Oh,
Something's happening.
is it? Do you see the video?
I see a black screen.
And you can't hear it?
No.
Maybe we can move on to the interview, but I can, while you're doing that, I can go back and see if I can find the link and put it in the chat.
That's a good idea,
be
but I
great.
don't know. Okay, hold on, let me get out of here. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna stop share. Okay, can y'all see me now?
Yes.
Okay, hey everybody, now I can see you. I couldn't see you before. Okay, now I have to turn off my video and go back to the PowerPoint. Well, it's a fantastic, it's a really, really fun video, but yeah, thank you, Lisa. If you can to share that, that would be great. All righty, now I have to share my screen again, I believe. Oh, okay, now it says optimize for video clip. I'm going to say share. I think. Do new.
Before you go to bed tonight, eat.
Uh-oh.
That was me. I found the link.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. I think I might. I'm going to try just one more time. You found the link, so if you share it on your screen, it might.
Maybe. Yeah, we can try that.
Okay, hold on. Can you see mine?
Not right now.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to try and see if I can do this on my screen.
Half teaspoon of this before 10
Can
p.m.
you
and
hear it?
electrify
Give me a
your
thumbs up.
metabolism by over 720%, especially if you are over 40. Are you skeptical?
You
I
do
was
skip
too.
ads. There you go.
I'm Keela Wyrley, married into the farm back in 1984. We are a century farm. We went back to
Thank you, Lisa.
1890 in the records. We have a grandson, Massey Ray Wyrley. He will be the 6th generation for this farm.
Look at that.
My family's always done it. So they grew tobacco, and now we grow pigs. Pork breeds are mostly Yorkshire crosses. We are trying Berkshires right now. It's supposed to be a real good tight meat for marbling. And that's how we got into the meat part of it about 10 years ago.
My name is Terry Matthews. I'm the head chef here at Guadalupe Cafe. I've always been really impressed with how we really strive to maintain local farmers, local meats, local products, and I love that we get stuff straight off the vine and we get to put it right into our food.
Guadalupe buys local because we know these farmers and have connections with them already, and we know the quality of what they're bringing us and the freshness of what they're bringing us, but also this area has a really long agrarian tradition, and we want to be a part of continuing it. Wyrley Farm, I met at the Jackson County Farmers Market and started buying a little bit here and there, and they really quickly became one of those partners that could give me a larger supply and were just really easy to work with.
Anytime, even when I make special requests, it's like, can we get it from the closest areas to us where we are? Wyrley Farms brings us everything from bratwurst to Italian sausage to the sausage that we use in our regular brunch menu.
We buy a lot of pork roasts that we use in-house, and then we also have specialty cuts. We'll buy, pork chops and all these yummy link sausages and chorizo and bacon. And now with the coronavirus, we've been retailing a lot of their products because we have lots of customers that are coming in and along with getting to-go food are buying bacon, breakfast sausage, all kinds of stuff from the Wyrleys and other farms.
People was wanting to buy it, when we weren't there all the time. Well, that was another outlet for us and her where it'd be available for our regular customers and her customers.
My customers are making a point to buy eggs from local farms and buy their bacon from Wyrley through us. And it's because they really want to make sure that everybody pulls through this thing. And so it's helping me keep my employees, it's helping my farmers keep their farms, and it's helping me keep my restaurant. And so I'm beyond grateful. Yeah.
People like our products. I guess that's pretty special. They come back for more. So I'll take that as being a special farm.
Love it.
Thank you. So Lisa, I'm going to go to my slide deck. I hope-
Sure. I love Keela and Joe. They are some of the best. And they're in Canton, I believe, Grateful Table. They're near you.
I noted that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, if everybody can go back to mute, I can't say that word, mute, that would be great. So I did want you to notice when Tara and I were talking about including that video, if you noticed on the back wall there, they had Jennifer is the name of the owner of Guadalupe Cafe in Silva. She had that local food board where she could change in and out what they were having on the menu that week. And the restaurant looked like that with chairs everywhere and everything because she absolutely closed during COVID, but she kept takeout. And as you saw, she ended up having like a little grocery in there. One of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is how to represent what you're selling at your restaurant or on your menu, because you can misrepresent yourself and your farms easily. So with that, I want to introduce Tara. Fortunately, Tara and I got to work together years ago before we both moved out here to Paradise. And I was living near Chapel Hill, and Tara was in Charlotte. We were both in big cities. And we worked together in the Piedmont Culinary Guild doing some work out there. She's still involved with the Piedmont Culinary Guild, but and has worked in teaching culinary skills and being a leader in the local foods movement in Charlotte. And so now we're fortunate that she's here in Southwestern North Carolina as the lead instructor at the culinary program, and still working with local restaurants like the Crown and the John C. Campbell Folk School. Tara and I are just gonna have a conversation about how this works best. And so Tara, I think one of the first questions I want to ask you is how you, as a buyer, the way, kind of Jennifer explained it, one of the things that you mentioned was that you also would visit farmers markets. Can you talk about that process of getting to know what's out there?
Yeah, of course. I find the farmers markets are the fastest, easiest way to find the local farmers and get a really good sense of what it is they sell, the quality of the produce, what kind of volume they can do, and so it gives me a really good sense of, is this someone I'm going to be able to work with on like just sort of a one-off occasional basis, or on a consistent over the course of a year, because every farm has different goals, and I want to I don't want to undermine anyone else's goals, but where we can align, that's where I prefer to work. So some hydroponic lettuces are great because they're available year round and the production can be stable. They're the problem. Any farmer's going to have any kind of problem on occasion, and highs and lows in production. But I could rely on hydroponic growers to get something local year round. An example, I worked with Tika Hill's greenhouse in Fort Mill for years and years and years before I moved out here. And she could provide, I'm getting an echo, I'm not sure why. She could provide lettuce, she intentionally lowered her production when field lettuce was in season. And then she would provide microgreens and that sort of thing in some greenhouse high tunnel options, so I could get some season extension and lettuce year round. So there was a recall on romaine on a national level, and I had guests I ran the student run restaurant at the Art Institute in Charlotte at the time, and she there was a recall on romaine lettuce, and I had a customer who was quizzing me about what lettuce was on our table, and I was able to assure her that there's no way that this is infected with E. coli. That's just not possible because it's grown in a high tunnel 10 miles from my house. So I feel very confident, regardless of what species of lettuce this is, putting it on the table. I wouldn't, if I were buying from a big producer, I wouldn't be able to have that kind of confidence. So that's part of why that's not the only reason I like working with local farms, but that's just one of the additional benefits to it for me. So I find that it's just a matter of relationship development, and sometimes it takes a while. I go to the farmers market almost every Saturday if I can when they're open, and sometimes it'll take me 6 months or a year to break through and start really developing a relationship with a farmer, but I find that it's worth the time and effort and energy to do that. I also found that volunteering helped build those relationships a little quicker too, and they were lifelong. I still feel, even though I've been out of the Charlotte market for a few years, I could make phone calls to those farmers if I really were desperate. As long as I could find a way to get the product, I could still do business with them. Now, I prefer to work, with whoever's closest to me. So I'm working on building relationships here. Even going to the Union County Farmers Market some, because it's 30 minutes away. So that's still local to me. So I'm not really worried about state borders so much as just who's nearby, and what can they produce, and can they produce at a volume that I can use.
Can you talk a little bit about quality control? So how do you work with farmers? Say a farmer shows up at your door and comes to you and says, hey, I have an abundance of raspberries. I'd really love for you to try these raspberries. What are some of the quality control recommendations you would make to that farmer?
I definitely need to know about the food safety side of things. I want to know it's a professional farmer. I don't want necessarily someone who grows figs in their backyard who just happened to bring me some. I mean, that's really cool, but that's not a business transaction and relationship. So I may ask about GAP certification, and it's not a deal breaker necessarily if someone isn't GAP certified. But I feel a little better if there's some kind of inspection process happening. But I trust my senses. I want to look at the food and see, is it being held at an appropriate temperature and being shipped at an appropriate temperature? That's really important, because I may not, just because I got the raspberries tonight doesn't mean I'll be able to use them for 3 days. So I need to know that it will be, my expectations for raspberries are pretty low on length of time. But I want to know that they were coming out of the field, being chilled appropriately, being held appropriately, so that we can, I can assure my customers that we were meeting food safety standards. So
Right.
It's just a matter of asking questions and asking to see the farm. I've never met a farmer who told me, no, you can't come visit my farm. They're usually very proud of what they do and want me to see it. And it helps me talk to customers with more education about what's happening. I often volunteer to go to farms too and work for a day or two just to help out and kind of see what's going on in a more natural environment. Plus, it makes me feel like I'm supporting the people that I care most about supporting in the economy.
Right. And that's why, we include this picture of these farmers, or a farmer and a restaurant buyer at some kind of fruit grove here. Eventually, farmers and restaurateurs, once you establish that relationship, you can even talk about seeds and varieties. I mean, some of my best farmer restaurant stories are a farmer saying, I always use the example of a Chioggia beet. A couple, 10 years ago, people didn't see Chioggia beets on a plate, and they're really beautiful. They're those white beets with the red circles on them, and they just look super pretty on a plate. And so a French, a chef had seen it somewhere and asked his grower, have you ever seen these beets? What do you think? And the grower brought the Johnny's seed catalog to the restaurant, and they looked at it together, and they're like, okay, well, let's try that. I mean, that's, Tara, that's probably to the nth degree of how a relationship can develop, but it can develop like that, can't it?
Yeah, it absolutely can. I there's an interesting dynamic at my favorite farmers market in Charlotte. It was the Matthews Farmers Market, and the guests would get, they're not the guests, but the non-restaurant customers would be upset because a chef would come in and we'd buy all of the yellow cauliflower or purple cauliflower or whatever. And the customers are like, why can't I buy that? Why do you get all of that? But then on the other hand, the farmer never would have grown it if they didn't know that they could sell it to the farms or to the restaurants. So it ends up over time becoming a symbiotic relationship where I need you to produce the food and you need me to buy the food so that we can support each other and make it profitable for both of us in a, you know, a sustainable way. So I love it when it works out. So people are growing things specifically for me.
Right. And that's a long-term relationship. And
Yeah, it is.
right. And one of the things that farmers need to be aware of, the list of things that we came up with were quality. Of course, we talked about that, having, having high quality standards, knowing what you're doing, working with your extension agent. Lisa and I work with Craig Money, who's an expert in the region on quality control. You know, you spend your time, you buy these beautiful seeds, you tend these beautiful crops, you harvest them maybe not at the right time of day, you don't cool them properly. And like Tara says, once you get to the restaurant door, they might look pretty, but 6 hours later, they're brown, and it's and there's ways that we can train you, extension can train you about that cold chain to keep your product beautiful. So quality is super important. And again, cooperative extension is here to support you farmers in that process.
Laura, we did have a question in the chat.
okay.
What does the state require with regards to cap of any producer? I think you might have meant gaps. Okay, she's shaking her head. So there's different level. I can go ahead and answer this if you want, but there's different levels of food safety regulations, I could say, and GAPS, good agricultural practices, is actually something that is not mandated for farmers. That's a buyer's tool. So it's something that buyers mandate. So for example, school districts, they require that you're GAP certified if you want to sell to a school district. A lot of grocery stores and big chains require that. Now that's one thing. Now, if you are making a certain amount of sales and the magic number is really around 25,000, then you fall under the rules of the produce safety rule of the Food Safety Modernization Act. So then you have to do a different training. It's called the Produce Safety Alliance training, and have much more regulation and restrictions. But again, there's a threshold based on how much you're selling. So what I would recommend, if you have questions about that, is to reach out to your county extension office, or to if you're in the western part of the state, Elena Rogers or Craig Money, who's a fruit and vegetable specialist, because they can help you navigate that and answer your questions, because it's really is based on what products you sell. Some products have more regulations because they're more known to have more risks. For example, cantaloupes and lettuce are higher risk crops than, say, a squash, because you tend to eat that cooked. And so that reduces some of the risk. So each crop is unique, each farm is unique. And I would just suggest to reach out to your county extension office as a first step.
Yeah, and we have the North Carolina Growing Together project. We've got some videos that I'll be happy to send to you. Some quality control videos, some great quality control publications that we worked with Craig Money to develop. So if you would, I have all y'all's emails, so I'm happy to send those to you afterwards about that cold chain. So thank you, Lisa, for that. So yeah, Tara, so we talked about quality control, consistency. Can you talk a little bit about that? How do chefs plan their menu around seasonality, and how do you work with a farmer to know? Because sometimes you really don't know how many weeks that produce is going to be available.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern, especially for longer chain bigger restaurants. Over time and with experience, you start to learn. I mean, you go through a few seasons and you have a really good sense of how long something's in season and when it's in season. And I'm relearning what that means, because the seasons are a few weeks behind Charlotte here, which is a little weird, but it's weird because I just spent so much time in that environment. But those long conversations are important. One of the biggest problems I've had on the chef side of the equation is not necessarily getting my order when I placed it. And that can be really, really challenging, because if I have a standing order for osso buco, 12 pieces a week, then I'm really hoping to get that. So if the farmer suddenly doesn't process animals that week for some reason, and they don't communicate with that with me, what do I do? And how do I stay nimble and able to deal with those situations? If I get communication ahead of time, I can find a substitute, no problem. I'm not running to Ingles and getting osso buco. It's just not going to happen here. So I may have to find an alternative pork substitute, maybe from the same farm, maybe not. If it's not, I need to find a way to deal with the fact that my menu says this farm's name next to this product. Now what? Which is a lot of, which can be a little frustrating, because I don't want to misrepresent the product. I don't want to misrepresent the farm. It's their reputation too. And I need these relationships long term. It's not, I mean, and I'm not doing it because of what I need, but I need to be respectful because it's the right thing, but also because I need this relationship. So it's, I've almost talked myself out of your question,
Okay.
but I don't.
Yeah, so there are consistent suppliers that will have things year round.
Right.
And then there are some, and one of the things we talked about was, because of that consistency, the idea of having season extension. And, you know, Frances is saying she's growing hydroponically,
Right.
but seasons are much shorter here. And so
Yeah.
the farmer who has that skill and those resources to use season extension are going to be in the game longer. And that's who the restaurateurs are like, when do I get your first tomatoes, right? Or you're going to have lettuce in September.
Yeah. And it's just developing a lot of relationships and maintaining them. It takes a lot of time and effort. But really it's what it keeps coming back to. I do try to have those conversations early. And I also try to put myself in a situation where I can change the menu quickly. So I may not print super nice menus in laminated boards so that I can just reprint on a weekly or nightly basis if I need to. I like the idea of having a board that says these are the farms and these are the products we're using, and I can just erase and change names as needed so that I don't have to put it in the print format. Not that printing is that expensive anymore. It's just, it's a lot cheaper than it used to be. But I want to be very nimble. I also, it's a matter of training my staff to make the sales and understand what the product is. So I need to taste, have them taste the product. And if I could do a side by side with a big ag product and a local product, they start to understand the quality difference of working with a small farmer who can really focus on doing things right instead of doing things fast. And that's that means it's a little harder on me sometimes, but it also means that I'm doing what I think is important. And that means sometimes dealing with those frustrations and on the fly having to problem solve. And it's okay. I find it kind of fun to solve that puzzle every once in a while. I don't want it every week, but occasionally it's fine. So
let's talk a little bit about that, because farmers would be frustrated that their name or their farm's name is on the menu, but maybe the chef changed at the restaurant, and it is one of those fancy laminated menus. And
right.
the chef changed at the restaurant, and he or she had somebody else that they bought osso buco from.
Mhm.
And your name is still there. And so one of the things we talked about was maybe putting on your menu, ask your server which farmers we are featuring tonight.
Right.
And like Tara said, training your servers, and then having that board, that chalkboard, or like Guadalupe had that board where she could switch out what was featured. But it does look like there's some activity in the chat. What's going on there?
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, so we've been having specific questions about specific products like buying eggs and buying honey. So I have been putting in information from the NCDA, North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and then for honey, the NC Beekeepers Association. So I'll just point out that with that Growing Small Farms link, which is a great, who does that? Debbie does that
in
page.
Chatham
And she does
County.
a great
Mhm.
job. So there's actually a contact information for the man who is over eggs at NCDA. So for a lot of these products, there's someone, and Laura and I know someone with NCDA more locally who works a lot with meat and produce. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the Empowering Mountain Food Systems program in there, because that's a good first step. Laura will talk more about that later, but once you fill out that short application, then she can connect you with the resources of that program.
Right. Thank you, Lisa. That's great. Yeah. And those are great questions, y'all. I mean, you don't want to get people sick, and you want to follow those regulations. We're starting a new program called Vacationer Supported Agriculture, where we have to have a digital Wi-Fi temperature gauge in our egg cooler, so that we can record the temperature those eggs were from when I pick them up from the farmer to when the consumer picks them up. So it's a real thing. Okay, so let me see some of the other questions that we wanted to make sure and cover. Some restaurants might have written requirements, like these NCDA rules that they want their farms to follow. What about like delivery times, Tara? Is it like, do restaurants, are they sticklers to say, look, Monday is delivery day. You need to be here Monday between 10 and 4, that kind of thing?
Some of them can be, and it depends on the size. I never really, I accommodated the farmer's schedule, but I was a small restaurant and we only had 20 seats. So it was okay. A lot of times I would go to the farmer's market and pick it up myself, and that works really well too, especially if I'm going to go anyway. But then some of the bigger places, they're very adamant that, we can only take deliveries between 2 and 4 on whatever day it is. And that's because they know what their lunch rush is, and they know that they don't have staff that can step away and, properly, check the order and make sure they got what they asked for, and figure out if something's missing, if there are any alternative solutions available. Because it takes it takes time and focus to do that. So pulling someone out of the kitchen at 12:30 at the height of the lunch rush just doesn't make sense.
No.
So that's the reason for the limitations on when people can accept orders. And once you hear it, it makes a lot of sense. So it just depends. And I know I need to get the food early enough that I can process it for whatever service is coming up. So if I'm asking for it to come in on Thursday, I really need it to come in on Thursday. And if you can't accommodate that, that's fine. We'll find a solution somehow. But, if I get it Thursday, then I can get it ready for Friday and Saturday, which is when I'm going to get, at my busiest.
Right. And so communication is key. Don't just not show up if something doesn't work out,
Right.
You maybe call another farmer, or just let the chef know what's going on so that they have time to change the menu.
Right. Well, and the same needs to go the other direction. If I know that Yeah, for something happened and I'm gonna have to be closed for 3 days and I can't use the product, I need to communicate to the farmer so that they can, sell it to someone else as quickly as possible so they don't have to hold on to it. I've never been in that situation, but it works both ways. It's a relationship and it ends up becoming a friendship. So it's important to be
Right, that
respectful on
that mutual respect is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've got, about 10 or 15 more minutes. I've got a couple more slides I want to cover, and we can continue talking to Tara, but is there anything more in the chat to address, Lisa?
No new questions,
Okay,
but a lot of questions in general. So, and the answers are so individuals to your situation, but the great thing is Extension is here to help and we're a free resource.
Great. So we wanted to have this meeting tonight to introduce the concept of, restaurants and farmers working together. And so one of the ways we do this is a farmer buyer event. We're going to do this on February 28th if we get enough participation. We're looking for 8 buyers and 8 sellers. And we have a guide for how to do this. And in that guide, there's a cheat sheet. And so the farmer writes down what he or she has, when they have it, the varieties, how they like to sell it, by case, by pallet, by 6-pack. And we give you all this ahead of time. And we do the same for the buyers. We want the buyers to be able to tell the farmers, I will only take deliveries at the restaurant on Mondays. I will only be able to pick up from you at the farmer's market. Everything needs to be on ice. I will only take USDA certified meat. All of those specifications, and that's not necessary, by the way, USDA certified is not necessary for restaurant sales. But all those details, we're preparing both partners on each side of the table. And so it's really fun. The way it works is we set the room up in a very lovely atmosphere, and the culinary program is going to host us, and the culinary students have a wonderful menu of products they're going to be preparing from local producers, and the farmers sit around the room. And the buyers will go and sit down with the farmers and talk for like 5 or 6 minutes. And we literally ring a bell. And then the buyers get up and they move to the next farmer. And so by the end of the evening, hopefully you've got a date and as a farmer, what the buyer wants, and the buyer knows, wow, I've got my choga beets for the year kind of thing, or I've got lamb. So we are going to hold that on the 28th, and I apologize, I don't have that registration link with me, but maybe Lisa.
I put the link in the chat, and we did
great.
have another question in the chat about if there was going to be another meeting closer to Canton. So I'm just going to take a moment to say that there is going to be a farmer buyer event at the ASAP's Business of Farming Conference. I forget the date, but I know it's late February. And the Empowering Mountain Food Systems, I believe, is offering scholarships. Is it too late for the scholarship, Laura?
No, they are allowing us to do it, and it is February 26th.
February 26th.
And
okay.
if you live in that little blue area we talked about at the beginning, if you live in Haywood County West, we do have a scholarship for you, and they have a fantastic grower buyer meeting. And it is kind of Asheville-y centric. But for you Canton folks, that might be a really good idea, and we'd be happy to give you a scholarship for that. And hopefully we're going to have one in Jackson County coming up. We've been talking about it for years, and maybe this is the year to do it. Does anybody have any questions specifically about this farmer buyer event? Okay. All righty. So yes, as Lisa has mentioned, here is the website for us. Maybe Lisa can put that in the chat. Empowering Mountain Food Systems is now a 4-year project. We'll be working in the region until at least the end of this year, of December. We, who knows, we might continue. But you go to that website and you see that apply now button. And we offer business counseling through our small business centers, which I really have to give a shout out to, as they are our partners in the region. And so that's Haywood Community College, Tri-County Community College, and Southwestern Community College. All three community colleges have small business centers that offer free counseling. And you enter our portal through the small business center, you have that counseling session, and then they refer you to us, where you might be able to get a grant or a loan, advanced business services. Say you need to get a website developed, or you need to talk to an attorney for an LLC, or you need a big new sign. Advanced business services can help with that. And again, we have scholarships, business of farming, the organic grower school is also coming up. I encourage you to look at that program. And we're working very closely with the business faculty at Western Carolina University. Part of our goal is to introduce students in many different academic areas to supply chain issues, so that they can go out in the world and be aware and be good consumers and good leaders in their chosen field. So it looks like a question popped in there.
I was just putting our contact info.
Okay, great. All righty, so that is it. If anybody has any other questions, or Tara, is there anything else you want to emphasize about the farmer restaurateur role?
I do want to say, it's really easy to think you have to be all or nothing when you're supporting local, and that's just not true. $200 in sales to a small farmer is huge, and it may not be humongous to you as a restaurant, but it can be a game changer for a smaller farm. So, and I know not everyone here is a restaurant, but there are ways to focus on specific farmers and maybe run specials, or during tomato season, just do a tomato dinner, like a one-off opportunity. So I mean, there are just a gazillion ways you can do a small version of supporting local that is still impactful on an individual human level. And I just don't want people to feel like you have to convert your entire operation into local only. It's great if you can do that, but realistically, most restaurants can't be 100% local. I'm not going to get local lemons, and I use lemons in everything. So I acknowledge that, but I can still use local greens or local tomatoes or local whatever's in produce. And even if I'm not doing everything, just a little bit helps. And it moves the needle and keeps someone in business, so that they're here for the longer term, and you can slowly transition if it's something you think is worth pursuing.
I think that's such an important point. I just want to, sorry to interrupt, Laura. I just want to jump in and second that thought. When I used to work in Florida, I worked with some of the school districts and helped them procuring local produce. And that was actually one of the big things I had to work with the food and nutrition directors was if you have a salad that you're offering to the students, it does not have to be all local. You can have like some of the lettuce is local and the rest is from Cisco or whatever. Or maybe the cucumbers are local that are in the salad, and that's the only thing, just little things. And so with cucumbers, we actually had a cucumber farmer come to the cafeteria and talk about his cucumbers. And it was such an awesome activity for the kids. We have a local event center here in Clay County that just reached out to me the other day saying, okay, and I've been asking them to consider buying local forever. And no, I get it. I have too much. I can't do it. And then they have some people staying at this event center that want local. So they reached out and said, okay, well, how are we going to do this? So we're hoping they're going to come to the farmer buyer event. But yeah, even starting small with one, they want to start with one weekend out of the whole year that they do local, and that's buying local. Obviously, you want to
Right.
get to the point where you're doing more than that, but you got to start somewhere.
Right. And the other idea is, like Tara said, like maybe help with a fundraiser, or if you're a catering business, you know, you can offer the option to have one of your menus be a buy local catering menu. So that's really, that's such a good point, that it doesn't have to be all in. I am trying to find my evaluation. I've got it here handy. It's really, really important for us to hear what we do well and how we can improve, and also what else you want to know. And it sounds like we might want to do kind of a food safety buying webinar about, you know, what are the regs for food safety. So I'm going to type this evaluation URL in there. If you guys wouldn't mind filling that out for us to let us know what we did well, how this webinar helped you, how we can improve it, what else do you need to know? That would be really helpful for us, and our funders really like to know that as well. So Lisa, what else is happening out there? What do you have coming up in your programming, or maybe you know what some of the other
So I think the big programs we have coming up is Cherokee and Graham County are doing a series right now where they're calling it actually farm school, even though we also know the farm school as the business school, but this is focused on farming. So they have a couple classes coming up. I think they just had one on raising chickens. I know they have one coming up on FAMACHA, which is related to goats and goat health and intestinal parasites and determining that. And I think they're going to have some on tomatoes. And then in Macon County, Christy Bradenkamp is doing a webinar series. So we've got lots of stuff coming up. And then in Clay County, we're going to be selling a lot of plants. So we've got our plant sales coming up. Right now we have our fruit plant sale going on. That's a 4-H fundraiser. And then we'll have our Master Gardener plant sale in April. And Francis actually got a word today that there's going to be a little garden party on the square that the Master Gardeners are planning. So they're looking for vendors. So I'm going to be reaching out to you to see if you're interested in that. They might have already reached out because I mentioned you as someone that had plants to sell.
So what are they selling? What fruit trees are they selling?
Well, the 4-H plant sale, and most 4-H offices actually have it. So if you're not in Clay County or near us, most of the counties that have 4-H programs are having a fruit sale right now. So they have strawberries, but they also have grapes and blackberries and apple trees and things like that for sale.
Cool, that's exciting. All right, well, we've got a couple of minutes left. If anybody else has any burning questions, that would be great. Laurel Ridge, I know that farm. Megan, are you a farmer, Megan?
She posted in the chat that she makes jams and jellies, right, Megan?
How does that work?
Sorry, I was looking for my mute button.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I make jams and jellies, so not a farmer. Always looking for fruit farmers though.
Oh, that's a good idea. Tara, how does it work buying value-added products? Is that something restaurants do often?
Sorry. Yeah, I like to buy value-added products for two purposes. Sometimes as a retail option, which is good for me and the farmer. And then also, I mean, it's nice. I did an event with Megan years ago where we bought some local yogurt and her jams and we put it on a breakfast bar so people could flavor however they wanted, and it was delicious. And so simple. I've stopped buying flavored yogurt mostly because I could just do that. So yeah, I think value added is great. Bread is something that I am not good at, and I'm very happy to pay someone who is good at it. So I love when I can find a baker that I can rely on, particularly, but even pickles is, you know, as long as, you know, we know the food rules are being followed, then I love a good value added product. I like to work with farmers to help them develop value added product because it helps them extend their season, and they have product to sell during the winter. So there's something available, which I think is helpful.
Cool. Tara, do the students have meals there at the college sometimes? Do you have like, how does that work?
Occasionally. We haven't been much because I'm a little overextended, but I did my first year, my graduates did a big dinner, and they each hosted one, and we had a lot of people come in, and so yeah, it happens. I would love to get to where I can open a restaurant, but I need about 20 more students and 3 more faculty members before I'm ready to do that. It'll happen.
All right. Well, fantastic. Well, I think that wraps it up. Thanks everybody for filling out the evaluation. Letting us know what we can do. And if it makes sense for you, I really do hope you can join us at the Farmer Buyer event. And thank you so much, Lisa, for hosting, and Tara for being interviewed and helping us spread the love of local food systems. Really
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
I will not be able to attend the grower buyer meeting in Asheville, but anytime y'all want to connect with me, I'm just right here, and I wrote down your phone number, your cell phone in the chat.
Okay. Great.
But Francis, you know, we're having one right there in Murphy too.
I will definitely be there at that one.
Fantastic.
I just will not be at the ASAP one.
Gotcha.
I have a lot of gluten sensitivities, and I just can't risk an exposure. My daughter is getting married March 12th, so it's
right around the corner.
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again. And I hope we can continue working together, Jean and Abigail. That's so exciting. Love it. Okay. Take care.
Thank you
Thanks
all
so much. Bye.